Hi, I'm Helena Varenko, and this is Code the State. This podcast is about how governments change in the digital age and about people building that change. Today's topic is artificial intelligence in the public sector, something governments around the world are starting to deploy in practice. My guests today are Yolanda Martinez, who is a global leader in digital government and public sector transformation. She coordinated Mexico's national digital strategy at the Office of the President, led by GovTech initiative at the International Telecommunication Union, and now serves as a practice manager for digital development at the World Bank, working with governments across Latin America and the Caribbean. Hi, Yolanda. Nice to have you here.
Hello, Helen. Hello, Oleksandr. Thank you so much for the invitation to be here today.
Our second guest is Oleksandr Iefremov, who is the CEO of Kitsoft, a Ukrainian GovTech company that helped build the infrastructure behind DIA, Ukraine's digital public services platform. His team has already built the first national AI assistant for public services in the world. Hi, Oleksandr. Welcome to Code the State.
Yeah, hi Helen, hi Yolanda. It's great to talk with you regarding all the aspects of AI implementations in government and share our experience and talk about your perspective as well.
Thanks. Let's start with a quick round. Short answers only. AI in government, opportunity or risk? Yolanda.
Opportunity.
Oleksandr.
I think both, but the biggest risk is not to do it at all. I think this is the biggest risk.
Gotcha. Second question. The most overhyped thing about AI in the public sector right now? Yolanda.
Agentic AI. And I think this is a good thing because since everyone is speaking about it, it gives us opportunity to motivate digital teams around the world to get the basics right, meaning the DPI, the right data in place, the right registries that interoperate in place so they can really leverage the experience of a seamless government that can interact with citizens in a very different manner. So yes, it's high, but I think it's the best opportunity we have to bring everyone into action.
Gotcha. Thanks. Oleksandr?
Yeah, I agree that agentic AI is a hyped thing, but I would stress on chatbots, because if you connect all this AI chatbot style in broken processes, on broken infrastructure, it doesn't fix the process. It just makes it harder to see what is broken. So I think these fast AI assistants, chatbots, are kind of overhyped.
Gotcha. Thanks. Let's talk about biggest advantage of AI in government in one sentence. Yolanda.
Gains in productivity, gains in changing completely the experience in how citizens interact with government, because now you can use voice command instead of having to go to a complicated form. Trust, therefore, DPI safeguards and AI safeguards are so key, but it's really changing completely how citizens interact with government.
Thanks, Yolanda. All true. Oleksandr?
To cut it to the chase, I think the state can finally scale to serve every citizen individually. So it's something unachievable before.
Sounds like a dream. Let's go deeper in that, actually, because implementation looks very different across different countries. And Yolanda, since you work with governments on a hugely diverse region, can you please help us understand who is genuinely building something, who is still positioning, how far along are governments actually in adopting AI? With examples, if you please.
Yes, I'm very happy. I'm very proud. So we recently launched the Digital Lag AI Accelerator in partnership with Tony Blair Institute, Carnegie Mellon University, Coursera, and AT&T Data. And we got 59 applications around three main areas. Improving design of digital services for citizens, improving productivity, in automating and simplifying internal processes in government, and using AI to manage data to better inform policy decision making. The quality of the proposals from all sub-regions, when I say sub-regions, is Southern Corn, Andean countries, Brazil on its own, which is a continent-sized country, the Caribbean, it's impressive. So the beauty is that today knowledge is more democratized. People can learn very easy how to use different toolings. And what it's important is to invite those entrepreneurs in government, those digital teams wanting to start having more a structured way to implement, because I totally agree with Oleksandr. Government tend to be very silo, right? You have ministers and you have agencies, but at the end, someone needs to own how AI is going to implement it. Someone needs to coordinate all these entities and to fast-paced the learning. So the accelerator bring that. From those 59 proposals, we selected 18 use cases. And from those 18 use cases, we have those type of clusters. And through different technical mentoring on AI governance, on safeguards, on a framework for how you're going to select as government an AI model, it's impressive the diversity from healthcare to education, to improving chatbots interactions, to simplify how government understand what steps are needed to access a service, is truly motivating to see that even though we are a very diverse region, in that diversity and in that common interest, we have monthly sessions with the teams. It's impressive how they learn from each other and how these type of exercises like open calls, respecting that each team decides what is a priority area in which they want to implement different types of AIs, demonstrate that when you provide a framework for that engagement to happen, people respond. So we have, for example, Brazil with a use case where they are using AI to better make their AI readiness assessment easily accessible to all levels of governments. And Brazil, like Mexico, is huge. You have more than 30 states, you have more than 5,000 municipalities. It's a federated country, meaning they have autonomy. So you need to have common frameworks and then roll out those frameworks, for example. You have different sets of countries participating with chatbots. Mainly, the objective is to use agents to facilitate the interaction, not only information, but transactions. And we have one regional case that was presented by Costa Rica and by Dominican Republic with CDPI as an implementing partner. They're going to work in integrating agentic AI building block into a common technology stack. So it's easier for digital authorities in these two countries to invite other agencies and other level of governments to benefit from reusable AI building blocks. So as you can see, many different use cases, from AI readiness and impact assessment frameworks, from conversational chatbots that also are transactional oriented, and from common joint use cases like the one in Costa Rica and Dominican Republic. So very motivated. The challenge is currently running. You can look for that, AI Digital Accelerator World Bank, and you will see the list of the 18 use cases that were selected.
And are these teams more governmental or it's startups?
Yes, it's the first cohort of the accelerator, so we're very motivated to learn from it. So we welcome any feedback. As for now, it was open to government of all levels, municipalities, state level governments, federal government, civil society, academia, and private sector. The main prerequisite was to have an endorsement letter from the government authority that is benefiting from the development of the use case, as well as the digital authority of the country or level of government that is going to be supporting and co-designing the use case. And this is very important because in government, the biggest challenge that we have is governance. How we make sure that different ministries talk to each other? How do we make sure that we have owners of a user journey that has different steps in that journey, that it's the responsibility of many different ministries for that user journey to happen? You need a digital authority that has the convening power to sit everyone together, that can manage a national, state, or local technology stack, that can learn from all these different use cases so you can streamline and reduce the asymmetry of capabilities between big entities with a lot of IT budget, with a lot of resources, vs small entities or small local governments. The beauty of today is that technology is more accessible. We have a lot of open source resources, but you need a governance to make sure that everyone understands the methodology, the safeguards, the security that needs to be in place, and the skills in the digital teams to leverage those resources. So the accelerator brings that opportunity. We only accepted proposals that had the digital authority endorsement as well as the implementing agency endorsement, whether it's the Ministry of Health or the Ministry of Planning in the case of Brazil with the framework, or whether it's two digital authorities from different countries respecting their own sovereignty, co-building something together.
That's fantastic news. So by the end of this acceleration program, they would have a working prototype on their hands, or?
It is, first of all, to validate if the current problem statement that they're trying to solve is actually solvable using AI. Second, to have the right implementing methodology in terms of impact assessment of the model that they're going to use, the right framework to select the model, the right integration into the rest of the DPI stack in the country. If work as a proof of country, also how they're going to scale it, how they're going to make it available not only to the Ministry of Health, hopefully, but maybe to many other ministries. So we want to accelerate the process of that learning. And those use cases that can manage to scale, we can, in another type of iteration, help them to scale.
Fantastic news. Very good program. Thank you, Yolanda, for letting us know about it. Oleksandr, now question to you. So Ukraine, as we know, built the first ever national AI assistant for public services, not as a pilot, but as a real part of the infrastructure. And so now everyone is talking about moving from digital state to agentic stage, which we'll already cover today. But from your perspective, how real is that shift for Ukraine and for other governments, where we are and where everybody else is?
Yeah, I think we had very good foundation for it. The overall DIA infrastructure, including Liquio platform, that has now more than 24 millions of users and more than 200 services running on it. It was very good infrastructure to build agentic layer. So first solution was, of course, AI assistant, just a regular chatbot. It was on top of a portal and it sits on real registries, real APIs. It knows real legal procedures. But agentic isn't the marketing word in this case because we made it transactional. Because we already had in place interoperability layer like Trim Beta, our version of Xroad. We have a digital identity, and we have a low-code layer in Liquio, where each service is described as a code, more or less. So you can just plug in this through MCP protocol. You just plug in AI to these services, and it could be deployed in weeks. So you don't need to spend a lot of time to build these bridges with different siloed layers of government and of solutions. And this is why it was maybe faster than in many other countries. And I think other countries just can't skip this step because without it, it would be just pilot solutions. Yeah, they could work. They could even give some value, but to make it more sustainable and make it real in 5 years, not in 20 years, you should think about foundation. And without that foundation, agentic is just a marketing buzzword. But with foundation, you can actually build it, I think.
Of course, yeah, I agree with that thought. Moreover, the question is not only in what AI or agents can do, but also what does it change for a real citizen who should be in the in the center of the service that we're talking about. And so, Yolanda, my next question is probably to you. What does AI, from your perspective, actually add to that picture? What becomes possible that wasn't possible before for the ordinary citizen from their perspective?
I think it brings a lot more options and simplicity in terms of accessing government services, and full supportive of having the opportunity to include the most vulnerable populations into many services that for years were challenging. I'm referring to elders. No, that is very hard for an elder to really open any app and expect an elder to make an appointment, etc. If you can use your voice to do that, of course, with the right safeguards in terms of digital identity, so on and so forth, you are really making it easier for an elder to follow up on what they need to do in terms of their health, in terms of calling for support if they need to. For indigenous communities, I mentioned that example before. I'm a full supportive of this. When we launched birth certificates in Mexico, and this was not so many years ago, 2018, we were only able to make printable birth certificates in Maya language. Today, it should be available in any language. And we have Kenya already working with many chatbots that are using Swahili to access any government service. So to me, inclusion and democratization of access, I think it's amazing. Of course, it requires to do that work in terms of doing focus groups, user needs assessments, testing that the interfaces are easier, improving them, iterating a lot. And I invite digital leaders that are listening to this podcast that if you don't have already an AI lab in your team, make it. If you need technical expertise to start learning and putting these concepts into action, reach out to international organizations, reach out to your startups communities, reach out to academia. You are not alone in this process. And the beauty is that there is so much knowledge available that it's very easy to put a vision into practice. But you need to have a team in place just focusing on understanding what is the new generation of digital government services in my country looks like. What is the new generation of data policies or frameworks that I need to update to make sure that any policymaker in my country, cross-sector, can access to the best data analytics, making sure that the privacy safeguards are in place. It won't happen automatically. Someone needs to own this activity. You need to have a multidisciplinary team in place, the discipline to report every week on progress, and just a start. No, the beauty of different use cases on AI is that technology today allows to have very quick prototype. Women in GovTech Challenge is an amazing example. 6 weeks and you have something up and running. So build the muscle in your teams, build the skills, build the confidence that they can really deliver, and partner with the startup ecosystem in your country, because it's amazing what the impact in the quality of life of citizens, and also the impact in productivity. When people have the time, when entrepreneurs have the time to think about their business and not the bureaucratic processes to run the business, you are helping the economy to grow. You are helping innovation to happen. So it has a lot of impact when having an agenda that is forward-looking, but also a team that owns that responsibility and is making it happen in an environment that encourage piloting, but also scaling.
Thanks, Yolanda. I'm now interested in the technical part of the same process. Basically, as a citizen myself, I might just ask for the outcome and the system will handle most of the process for me. But then, what does happen to the service itself? Does it disappear for the user? Probably not, but it probably would go through some changes, as well as the civil servants, right? They wouldn't just disappear, but they would change roles. Oleksandr, please comment on that. I know you have something to say.
Yeah, so I think for user, at this point, service is just an interface. Yeah, so when we talk about AI, it's just another interface. You can talk with it with voice. You can just put it random text, and AI could help clarify your intention. And this is something that really could help. But on the back end, you still need a very strict structure of registries, standardized procedures, the system that could orchestrate these procedures, and it should be very strongly legally backed. So the service doesn't disappear, from the back end. So somebody still has to define legal procedure, has to support data model. Also, there is a requirement to handle the exceptions. Yeah, because you always in real life you have a lot of exceptions, and so still a lot of manual work will be involved. But basic um, uh, procedures in the like first stage, and then more and more complicated procedures will be fully automated, and with the help of AI it could be easily transformed from voice to structured data. And yeah, so it could help both citizens and government officials. Of course, most countries, most like of course more European countries, they selected more safe kind of strategy to start from government officials. They implement this in their work. So, for example, AI in this case could parse paper documents. So the processes, citizen-facing processes, are still kind of traditional. They had invitations, they draft documents, but then AI helped to recognize it and put it in the system. So I think this is the most common strategy in Europe for implementing AI. But now a lot of countries around the world, including Ukraine in this case, experimenting with AI-faced citizen chatbots, and it's kind of considered kind of risky, of course, but it's a very big leap, and I think it's a right process because citizens already expect this kind of functionality because almost everyone use these chatbot tools. I mean, digital savvy people, of course, because if you talk about people that don't have access to digital tools, then probably they should still come to governmental service centers, and then their intentions would be translated maybe by AI, maybe with the help of human, to some structured application, and then it will be handled like a service with some defined outcome. So I think all these processes will be continue will continue to exist, but a lot of them will be just simplified and scaled.
Code state. Got it. I'm sure that there's also a lot of the conversation going on in terms of tension and trust and what comes next, because the promise of AI in the government is to make services faster, smarter, more personalized, everything that you already discussed today. But then it raises another question. At what point does state anticipating your needs becomes, well, state making decision for you? And where is the line and who draws the line? Question is open for the both of you, to be honest. I'm sure that Yolanda, you can also comment on that as well.
No, I think definitely AI, especially in government, needs to have very clear governance in terms of who makes that decision, who oversees the implementation process, a committee that is responsible to continuously update the implementation framework that any institution and any government must follow, but also an enabling environment. Another partnership that we launched in the bank with Coursera, it's called Vincula Lag, provided 5,000 scholarships for governments to decide how to strengthen current digital inclusion programs, whether for public servants or for citizens. And it was amazing to see the diversity of use cases of the same tool, in this case, an online learning platform with a lot of learning resources available, all certifications for major companies, major universities, but it needs to make sense in the context of a final policy goal, whether it's reskilling public servants, whether it's reskilling citizens for better employability, whether it's reskilling SMEs to be more productive. And across the different use cases, for example, Dominican Republic gave the scholarship to students of the best grades in vulnerable communities, where the government was already providing a computer and internet access, and now they added curated content to invite the students to select STEAM related areas. Chile, for example, used the scholarships to motivate public servants already in the network of a public sector innovator to gather new certifications on different topics. Costa Rica did the same, but Costa Rica was more precise in defining the learning paths, for example, for lawyers to become more savvy on AI-related topics. For technology project managers to become more savvy on new challenges of implementing AI-related projects. So it was amazing to see diversity of use cases, but across that diversity, the most demanded courses in the period that we ran the partnership was AI and cybersecurity across all the different use cases in more than 12 countries that we work. So it's also relevant that in any implementation effort, a strategy in terms of a digital academy, Ukraine has an amazing one. Governments put in a very accessible manner the right toolings for any public servant, not only member of a digital team, but lawyers, from office colleagues, back-end analysts, high-level decision makers to have the right learning paths, a curriculum in place to bring everyone at the same level of understanding on how this is going to change the way they work, how they're going to benefit the better use of the time. And the beauty for those of us who have worked in government most of our lives, there is so much work every day in a government office that the beauty of this is that we can really amplify the way we serve citizens, the way we design policy, and also any public servant also has a life, right? We need to have better quality of life in terms of managing the workload, but that requires a huge change in the paradigm on how work structure and work programs in government entities, it's being rethought. And the beauty is that there is a lot of innovators in the public sector. There is a lot of activities that can be done in terms of challenges and hackathons to invite internal government teams to partner with startups and academia to really rethink how the day-to-day work can be better off. And I invite all colleagues, again, listening to this podcast to reach out and invite colleagues within your different government entities to provide ideas. Make the structure very easy for everyone to propose things. In the bank, we have our own AI strategy. So colleagues in the information systems department have done an amazing work. We have an entire task team analyzing every single procedure in the bank. And as a bank, we have a lot of documentation to process every time we're going to give a loan to a country. And we have a lot of rules that says what that documentation needs to happen to justify the development objective of every single project in the bank. We have a lot of agents customized to streamline that process. And before it used to take 18 months to prepare an operation, today we're going into 12 months. And it's not replacing anyone. It's really giving us more capacity to process more demand from countries, make it more effective, the use of previous knowledge, of previous learnings as we prepare new operations. That, by the way, most of them are incorporating AI. But again, it needs to have an owner within the organization. It needs to have a team responsible to doing this. It needs to have a way to invite everyone to embrace and to try these new tools and to provide feedback to the colleagues that are building these agents. So it makes relevant and increase adoption in a scalable manner.
Thank you, Yolanda. Oleksandr, do you want to comment on that as well?
Yeah, so where is the line between anticipating your needs and making decision for you? I think the line is consent. Yeah, and some level of reversibility. So, for example, state can anticipate you are eligible for this benefit. Do you want to claim it? And it can also act on some routine matters like pre-filling, checks, pre-approving, auto-renewing even. Yeah, so maybe it can remind citizens that you can have some type of benefits, but it can't do proactive services. They're called proactive services in Ukraine. And what it can't do is to take some irreversible decision, yeah, without the citizen in the loop. So you have to be able to say no and the system has to be able to roll back in this case. And I think different governments will draw a line at the different place, but I hope that ultimately in democratic countries, parliament should decide on whether to draw this line. Yeah, so because it should be done intelligently, and then at some point somebody has to translate it into code. What's logged, what's reversible, what's automatic, what require explicit confirmation, and also what activities should be reviewed by government official, how to be sure that this review has really happened. So it's not just hitting the button, okay, like, because it's easier to agree with something that AI offered. Yeah, it's always harder to disagree. So there is a lot of challenges in this, but I think the procedures should be created and properly communicated with governments, with technology teams in governments, and implemented in products.
Thank you. They say that the future is now and the future is distributed. So because there are countries that live in the future already with agentic states and everything that we're experiencing and talking about in this podcast. But then we have countries that have very distributed possibility of accepting or even being offered the same line of services. And so on my end, it would be very cool to understand what kind of service do you see yourself using now to say, wow, that's already a future for me. Yolanda?
I would like to give a very simple example in 2 different countries, and it's about acceptance of a digital driver license. Mexico City is a 25 million people city. And one of the first services that is available as a verifiable credential in your citizen wallet is your driver license and the registry of your car. So when I have the honor to serve ITU, I had to move to Geneva, Switzerland. And I remember that I went with some family and I wanted to rent a car. I was never able to manage to convince the official that my digital driver license was official. And it was very contradicting to me that we were going to work on GovTech initiative, mainly created to accelerate the process of having the foundational DPI in place, and that the government that is hosting the agency running that process didn't accept that digital driver license. When I moved to Washington, D.C. to now collaborate with the bank, the same story happened. I went to the office that handles these processes in the city, and I was like, I'm so proud because, I'm Mexican, and in Mexico City, you can have your digital driver license. And they were like, no, we need a plastic one. And I was like, but it's the same. It's exactly the same. You can scan the QR. This is an ISO standard. It's a verifiable credential. Many countries, many states in the US actually have a digital driver license. Why the city of Washington doesn't accept my digital driver license? Up to date, they don't accept it. So I have to go back to Mexico City, request a plastic driver license just in case I had an emergency. I was able to drive. But this gives an example of something that is so simple. Many people move around the world, and they should be able to use a verifiable credential that is worldwide acceptable to function and to do business and to create a simplifying way to be a citizen of the world. I'm sure the same happens with mutual recognition of certification of studies or certification of professions. It's something so simple as a driver license still today in 2026 creates that level of resistance that demonstrates that there is a long way to go. But I'm positive because I think the more we create awareness in terms of mutual recognition of standards, international standards, the more we invite government CIOs at all levels of government, right? Washington, D.C. is a city. So this is a city-level government, independent on how they run the digitization of their government services and how they run the city DPI stack. standards are standards everywhere. So the more promotion we do to mutual recognition of digital signatures, standards, consent, the easier it is for any citizen to do very simple services that impact their day-to-day life. Driving, getting an inspection in your home, registering your kids to school, having the vaccination right from when you have the baby already in your calendar. No, anticipating the needs is also very important because you recognize the citizen before someone goes. If migration services already register, Yolanda is coming to work, I should be able to get a message from the city, welcome to Washington, D.C. No? Please do this and this and this with just these clicks. No? Instead of me having to go finding that surprise that I cannot use my digital driver license from Mexico City. So those little changes make a ton of difference. It doesn't matter the country, it doesn't matter the level of government. And again, I invite digital leaders listening to this podcast to do the work, go to the government citizens, listen to people. What are their complaints? Today, you have all the technology and an entire international community working in building these standards, working in giving the legal certainty, no, that a digital driver license is a valid document, mutually recognized around the world. It won't happen easy, but the more we promote this type of engagement, the better.
Oleksandr, I am now very curious to hear what do you imagine for yourself as a service of the future, as an owner of such a technological company that delivers digital services for a living. So
yeah, just a couple of examples from the past. First of all, so first, my positive impression was when I shared Ukrainian digital COVID certificate on the conference in the middle of COVID in Estonia, and it worked actually. It surprised me a lot because we built it interoperable way. Unfortunately, not all governments follow it. So but Ukraine and Estonia, it happened that they followed the same standard, and it was really a cool thing. So I was positively impressed. Now with the DII chatbot, for example, I can just with the chat interface ask for income certificate, official income certificate with all signatures. It will drop in my mailbox in a couple of minutes. It's also kind of impressive. But I think we should work with all services. So we should plug and test all the services, and they should be accessible in different interfaces. For people that are digital savvy, for people that are not. And of course, the future is in automatic agentic-led procedures where citizens just are informed that you are eligible for this type of service. And what Yolanda mentioned, when you come to some area, you register there, you tell government that I'm here and it is new area, government inform you that you should do this, this, and this. We can automatically do that for you, and you are eligible for this, this, and this, and you have this type of options. Cross-border interoperability is super important. VC is super important, and I think verifiable credentials is something that a lot of countries are implementing. But unfortunately, there is already three different standards. And all developing companies, all software companies need, if they want to operate on this market, they should follow all three standards. Sometimes it's just format, but for some cases, it's even kind of philosophy, foundations of this, and it's not very easy to implement all three of it. It's a challenge. And of course, governments more inclined to think of their own citizen, and for foreigners, they're not so enthusiastic to cover their needs. So I think that anyway, they should follow the standards. And if governments want kind of investment attractiveness, they should also think about foreigners coming in their countries, because traditionally it's not like just refugees. It could be very educated and value-added individuals that come to your country and have some type of requests regarding business, regarding different activities. and you should provide them proper services, I think.
Analyzing now what you just said, it brings me to something that also unites us, the Women in GovTech Challenge. And Yolanda, you and me both, we've been on the assessment team for the finalists of the challenge. And I would like to ask your perspective as well about the teams, about the use cases that you have seen working within, like, just 6 weeks and everything that they had to follow. What stood out to you the most? What use cases that you think were so impactful and it was such a good idea for teams to actually work on that because it solves many, many problems in the same time?
No, for sure. I feel very proud of the Women in GovTech Challenge because it really proves that when you provide a framework for a digital team to master the basics of digital public infrastructure with a lecture-based program, that it's very practical, right? From theory to practice. This is digital ID. This is how you run it. And this is interoperability. This is how you run it. This is user-centric service design. This is how you do it. Here is the Figma with the UX UI toolkit. Liquio in this third cohort of the challenge, I think, make a huge difference in terms of giving the opportunity to participants to design the prototype that is ready to production if they have the conditions for that to happen. Combine that technical with practical exercise with a network of mentors is also a very important element of the program, because at the end, every cohort of the challenge iterates and learn from the feedback received from the previous one, and growing a community of practitioners that shares the same understanding in terms of modularity, interoperability, DPI safeguards. They amplify those messages in the digital teams that they work with. The more we grow up these communities, the more diversity we have in digital teams designing services, and everyone is better off, because diverse teams, female, male, but also professions, designers, technical experts, behavioral scientists, all these perspectives really shape the experience of the user when it's interacting with technology. And in the third cohort, we were able to have more participants since the application process. More than 1,000 applied. We will only have the opportunity to receive 288. The quality of the prototypes compared to the first cohort and the second cohort significantly increased because we have more robust toolbox available for those 6 weeks to happen. And the sensitivity in terms of the empathy that you can see reflected in the different use cases, from a new way to give their certificates, how to better engage with social protection programs, I think really help to something that may seem complex. Is not until you are doing it that you realize that it's simpler than you may think, that there are so many resources available in the international community to support delivery, and the cohort bring that into the table. I also wanted to highlight that the same work that goes into designing a specific use case, today technology really facilitates international interoperability. I was reflecting on what Oleksandr mentioned before, and in Latin America and the Caribbean, we don't have a European Union legal framework, but we do have the Latin American network of for the development of digital government, RedGeal. And within that framework, there is a consortium created last year between CoDevelop, Inter-American Development Bank, the World Bank, that is run to RedGeal to create digital ID broker that is open source, that is based on what the country's technical teams jointly agree. And today, any person with a GovBR digital ID, which in the case of Brazil is 175 million people, can use that digital ID to enter more than 300 services of Uruguay digital government portal. You don't need to go to a different process of know your customer to access Uruguay service portal. You just need to have, in this case, your digital ID from GovBR is mutually recognized. And the initial services that were open for that integration with trade related services. Through the consortium that is called IDELAC, we are working with more than 12 countries in accelerating the process of the use of the broker to mutually recognize the digital identities issued by each of the countries. A concept that is very mature already in place in Europe because you have a common legislation for the Digital Service Act, the Digital Single Market, the AI Act. But in the context of Latin America, we need to relate more on trade agreements like Mercosur, like Alianza del Pacífico. But when you have digital teams mature enough to use those current legal frameworks and integrate the technology in terms of recognizing the security standards, regional interoperability and regional digital integration is a possibility. And I bring this in the context of the challenge because we need to increase the pipeline of digital teams that have the same framework on how to approach modularity, mutual recognition of standards, digital safeguards in place, and innovating in how to make simpler for people to experience interacting with government. So in the case of IDELAC, millions of Brazilians doesn't need to learn a new username and password to do transactions with Uruguay or with Mexico or with Colombia or with Chile. We really want to have a region that is integrated digitally, where I can use my Java MX, which is the digital ID of Mexico, to transact basically on any government portal that I need to in a secure manner. So we're leading towards that, and we always see European Union integration and governance body to define the standards as an example.
Thank you, Yolanda.
Yeah, and to add from my side, I think like in Europe, it's already a framework in place, but technically there is it's not so bright. So I think maybe you know that Germany will issue their wallet next year, and a lot of other countries. So yeah, the framework is in place, but there's a lot of things to do, and they faced a lot of problems. They cut the scope, minifies the requirement, and like it's constant process. So I don't expect it very fast, unfortunately. It's the right way, of course, and I'm happy to hear that in South America also there is a lot of very practical things happening, and a lot of people will have this access to digital services of other countries. Yeah, hopefully that will at some point of time we will build all these bridges, and it could help us to have more peace in the world. Living in Ukraine, I really can tell you that unfortunately, yes, we are still under constant attacks, and it really annoy us, but we are on our way, building services, making it interoperable, contribute to other countries' experiences, and yeah, so build this interoperable bridges from technological side of view. But of course, it leads us to building bridges between countries and peoples and nations.
Thank you both. I think that would be a good place to end it on a high note, and probably ask you one last question. If somebody had just taken one idea through the whole podcast that we recorded today, what would that be, Yolanda?
This is our opportunity as digital leaders to deliver. So I invite everyone listening this podcast that is responsible for leading digital to own it, to drive it, to deliver, and enjoy the ride. Because today you have a community of practitioners around the world ready to help you. Reach out, international organizations, of course, like the World Bank, but many others. Reach out to the startup community. Reach out to academia. Today is a huge opportunity that we have to completely transform how government interact with citizens and build trust between citizens and institutions. So enjoy it, and we're ready to support you on that journey.
Oleksandr, from your side?
I would like to share a controversial thought that agentic state is not about AI. It's about respect for the citizen's time. Every form a citizen doesn't have to fill out is an hour of their life given back to them. Multiplied by 24 million people, You understand why this matters more than just single technology. The goal isn't a smarter government. The goal is a government that helps their people and in the way that could deliver more value for the citizens.
Wow, government that cares. That would be a good slogan.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, dear guests.
Yeah, and it's not about because people that don't care now, just because they have very small bandwidths. What Yolanda shared, that there is a big demand of high quality service and a very small bandwidth. With AI, we can expand.
Yeah, democracy every way, basically. Thank you so much, guys. This is Code the State, produced with the support of the International Telecommunication Union. If this conversation sparked something, follow the podcast and share it with someone working on digital government. This shift has already happening.